Agut Yom Tif, we know that Yom Kippur is connected very much to one of the great rabbis, Rabbi Akiva, who had Mesiras Nefesh. He passed away al Kiddush Hashem. Some say that it was on Yom Kippur itself that he passed away, and we mention him in the davening among the 10 Asara Harugi Malchus. It is also known that the Tefillah of Avinu Malkeinu, which we say on Rosh Hashanah and in Yom Kippur and the 10 days of Teshuvah, was also instituted by Rabbi Akiva. The Ben Ish Chai says that he would add in the davening, Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Laman Akiva ben Yosef Shenarag al Kiddush Shemecha. He would make a special request asking Hashem for mercy on behalf of Akiva ben Yosef, who passed away al Kiddush Hashem. There's a few teachings from Rabbi Akiva and from what he did throughout his life that we could learn a lesson for Yom Kippur and how we should act throughout the year. So Rabbi Akiva, as we know, was a great Talmud Chacham, and he taught thousands of Talmidim, thousands of students Torah. He famously said that just like if a fish goes out of water, right away it dies, so too a Yid without Torah is like a fish without water. He also said about Yom Kippur that Ashreichem Yisrael, who is like the Yidden, that Hashem purifies them, Avichem Shabashamayim, our Father in heaven, and just like the mikvah purifies someone who is impure, so too Hashem purifies the Yidden. Now, Yom Kippur is usually a time that we focus between things that are between a person and Hashem, bein Adam lamakom. Rabbi Akiva teaches us that it is very important also to think about bein Adam lachaveri, to think about how we can help our fellow man, our friends. So the Gemara tells us a story of one of the students of Rabbi Akiva that became sick, and for some reason no one came to visit him. Rabbi Akiva himself went to visit him, and since they noticed the situation of the person that was sick, they swept and they dusted the floor. They rinsed the floor, they washed the floor, and because it was clean, that's what caused the student to live. The student gratefully said to Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi, Hachi Yisani, Rabbi Akiva, you have revived me, you have brought me back to life. And Rabbi Akiva taught from that story how important it is to visit someone who is sick. We see from the story, Rabbi Akiva had thousands of students, but out of all these students, he went himself and visited this one student that no one else visited. And not only did he visit, just stopping by and say hello and goodbye, he checked the situation, he saw the needs of the person being visited, and he made sure that he has everything that he needs, which actually caused him to continue living. This is one story that shows the love and Avas Yisrael that Rabbi Akiva had to a fellow person, to a fellow student. As Rabbi Akiva famously said, that v'yahavta l'reyacha kamocha zeh klal gadol b'Torah. Loving a fellow Jew is the rule and the principle of the entire Torah. Another thing the Gemara tells us about Rabbi Akiva, and we see from here Rabbi Akiva's great dedication to his students and his care for other people and other Yidden. The Gemara in Pesachim tells us that Rabbi Akiva would distribute nuts for kids on Erev Pesach in order that they should not fall asleep and they should ask the Manishtana. The Gemara further continues there and says that Rabbi Akiva never told his students that it is time to get up. He would always continue teaching as long as the students were willing to continue listening. The Gemara tells us that there are 2 times that Rabbi Akiva would tell his students to get up and to leave the Beis Medrash, to leave the place where they were learning and to go home. When were these 2 times? The Gemara tells us is Erev Pesach and Erev Yom Kippur. Erev Pesach, Rabbi Akiva would send his students home in order for their parents to put their kids to sleep during the day so they should be able to be up by night and to ask the 4 questions. On Erev Yom Kippur, Rabbi Akiva would also tell his students to go home to make sure their kids eat and they prepared for the fast on the next day, however much they would be able to fast. This is an amazing story and anecdote that the Gemara is teaching us, that although Rabbi Akiva was so dedicated to Torah, he nevertheless made sure that his students stop learning and take care of their children to make sure that they're up for the Seder and that they're prepared for Yom Kippur. This is a lesson we could take from Rabbi Akiva and from Yom Kippur, how we should dedicate ourselves and make sure that other people that we know, people that might be either sick or students, someone that we could educate, either learn Torah or that children and kids are taken care of. I would like to share with you a story that I just heard recently. Mr. Alt over here in the shul connected me with Rabbi Slansky, who in the 1950s was sent here to open and run the school Yeshivas Achei Tmimim over here in this shul. And he put me in contact with Rabbi Slansky. I called him up this past week, and he shared with me about his experience in Buffalo, the difficult times that there was to raise money for the yeshiva, and there was not too much Chalav Yisrael, and it was hard to get kosher needs over here in Buffalo. And for a few years, Rabbi Slansky ran the yeshiva with Mesiras Nefesh. He called me back a little while later, and he said, I would like to share with you another important piece of history, a piece of information about the time that I was there in Buffalo. He said, many times Rabbi Slansky would kvetch or complain a little bit that things are difficult over here. There's not enough money to keep the yeshiva going. And this message he passed on to the Rebbe. The Rebbe then made out a check, told Rabbi Chadakov to make a check to Yeshivas Achei Tmimim in support of the yeshiva and in support of what Rabbi Slansky was doing. That following Yom Kippur, Rabbi Slansky made a copy of this check and he showed it to the people in Shul on Yom Kippur, and he said, there's a rabbi in New York that cares about your children, that they should have a good Yiddish education. And he said, once people saw what the Rebbe gave towards this, $1,000 in the 1950s was a very big amount, and people started giving and money started coming in from this check and from the story how the Rebbe showed direct support to the yeshiva and to the students in Buffalo. So if we put together all these messages of the stories of Rabbi Akiva and the story of the Rebbe showing support and caring about other children, we could all take a lesson from this Yom Kippur to try to see people in our community who can be visited, who need some more attention, who can we look more into their situation and see how we can help them, whether physically, like by this person who was sick, and helping him to make sure his place was clean, or spiritually, educating them like Rabbi Akiva taught his students, or making sure kids have what they need, whether it's a good nap before Pesach, or to have food before Yom Kippur. And by us looking around and trying to see how we can help others in their situation, may Hashem give us the same, and Hashem will look out for us and give us all a good year and a Gmar Chasima Taiva with only good things.